This afternoon, my guest is Rofhiwa Cedric Mabuli, who is the visionary leading man at Ngoma Bush Lodge in Hoedspruit here in South Africa. So this is a space that invites travelers to rediscover Africa through immersive, authentic, and regenerative safari experiences. Under his leadership as the manager at Ngoma Bush Lodge, he is reimagining what it means to experience the bush, not just as a visitor, but also how you can form part of the living rhythm of the land. Really important work that he is doing, and I'm very excited to connect with him this afternoon. Rofhiwa, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon.
Good day to you, and thanks for having me, and also greetings to your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the time. I was in Hoedspruit with my good friend Tebogo. I think it was 2 weeks, if not 3 weeks ago. And it was just unfortunate that I couldn't meet you in person because we're running late for all sorts of excursions. But Hoedspruit is such a wonderful place to explore, especially for people that want to do bush retreats and, get away from the city. But let's talk about what inspired your journey into this form of hospitality, because it's hospitality that meets conservation and also your leadership role at Ngoma. How did all of this come about for you?
Actually, it's a very funny story. So I actually come from an IT background, and I was in corporate in boardrooms and having meetings and all that. And I think during sort of like COVID, I sort of like it was very. It was times when no one really knew what was going to happen next. And at the time, I then got involved in a property here that I got in Hoedspruit, which was just a small 2-bedroom lodge that I ran as a self-catering place. And then from there, I think then I just never really looked back. Moved here, and then I worked remotely for a few months. And then I think that just the thought of going back to Joburg and missing out on this, what this area can provide, just sort of like gave me anxiety, and I was just like, you know what, I just need to be here, and I had to make a decision. And I think at the end of the day, then the bush won. That's why I ended up being here full time. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds like a dream for many people that are living in the city, but you really just made that decision and here you are today. But let's swiftly move into the work at Ngoma Bush Lodge. I mean, for those who've visited, they've said some wonderful things about the uniqueness of the experience that you offer. So talk to us about Ngoma Bush Lodge and how you operate and how you make the experience really memorable for your visitors.
Yeah, so we're starting on a 600-hectare farm, just in Hoedspruit, just about 14 kilometers out of town. So we're still very central, and also that sort of like gives you access to a lot of other places within the area, sort of like the Blade Canyon, and also you're able to go for safaris, quad biking, and a lot of other stuff that you sort of like probably maybe enjoyed while you were here.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we missed you, but we on a 600-hectare farm. We've got 10 sleeper, also 5-bedroom lodge. We sort of like accommodate families also, but we don't really accept, people, kids younger than 10. So we are a rustic lodge. Also, we are on a plains game farm where there's a lot of variety of animals. Also, just with Hoedspruit and what it can provide, we do have a lot of good sightings of leopards, hyenas, and all the other species that are around from a sort of like a plains game perspective. Also, I think that with the concept of a safari for a lot of South Africans, I think that it's something that is, we think that is, it can't be, it's not possible. We think that is very expensive.
Yes.
I think that's what sort of like what we're offering here is sort of like much cheaper. You can get more for it. You don't have to overpay to obviously have a good safari experience, which is sort of like what we're trying to provide here. So we do things like bush prize. We do 2 daily game drives a day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And in between, then you would have either lunch, sort of like the itinerary would look like. And also we've got a swimming pool area where you can relax. Obviously in the low veld, it does get a bit hot. So you you would then be able to go and sit by the pool. But it's sort of like what we're trying to provide. Yeah, I think in a
Okay.
nutshell. Sorry.
Yes, no, no, that sounds amazing. Um, but with what you are saying, Cedric, I mean, I really want to know, um, just, I mean, do you think more Africans are beginning to embrace travel? Actually, that's what I want to ask. Do you think we're embracing travel at this level? You know, safari experiences within the continent, using South Africa as an example, in Hoedspruit where you are. Are there still barriers that you are seeing that still remain that we need to break so that we can access the space and not be afraid to get into the bush and really experience the wild that is in its vastness and the opportunities that lie within?
I think with my time here, I have seen a very huge shift and change in terms of also the clientele that sort of like you sort of like get to see around the area itself, which is sort of like where I'm exposed to. I think previously, before COVID, you wouldn't really see a lot of South Africans coming through in this space in this area here, and you can really see that since then. I'm not sure if there was sort of like a change because of COVID or what would have changed, but I can see that there's a huge shift, and also there's also a huge appetite in getting into safari lodges. But I think, like as I just already said, I think that there's always been that misconception that it's not for us. It's for probably the internationals because it's too expensive. But I think that I think the area itself has done very well. Tourism here in this space also has grown drastically, and also I think sort of like being affordable, because I think the area itself has never really been sort of like catered for South Africans, which is sort of like where we're trying to come in to close that gap, where we then saying we can do this. You can go on a game drive, you can have a bush braai, obviously in a very safe environment, making sure that everybody's looked after. But I can definitely say that a lot has changed, and I think that it's good also just for the South African market.
Absolutely. 22 minutes after 1 p.m. in Central African time. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Planting the Seed. My guest this afternoon, Rofhiwa Cedric Mabuli. He is the visionary lead at Ngoma Bush Lodge, and he's the manager there. So he really is inviting you as a local, as an African person, to travel, you know, to rediscover Africa through safari experiences, which is what he's an expert in. And we really are just talking about his journey into getting into the wild, getting into the bush, and how he's creating itineraries in the bush that really think about you as an African person, how you would want to experience your back door, your backyard in the wild, as it were, and what you can walk away with. Let's talk about how Ngoma Bush Lodge is possibly contributing to conservation and community development in the region?
Oh, definitely. So we sort of like set on a private farm, so we don't really do a lot of conservation ourselves because we just operating within a space of a private farm. But
Right.
there is a lot of conservation efforts that are brought in, which maybe I might not be the right person to speak about, as we just operating within this private farm. But I think from a community development point of view, we sort of like the staff that we've got, the personnel that we have, we trying to obviously employ people that are coming from the neighboring towns and within the area itself. Whereas usually you would, I mean, we were actually talking to a friend last week where we were sort of like talking about that there is actually people that lives, because we very much around the Kruger area, where you do find people that lives within the spaces that have never not even been inside the Kruger itself, which is such a shame. So I think that by us employing locals, it's also very good for the guests. Where you sort of like, even if you have to go for a game drive, you can hear of local stories, people that have grown within the same area, so they sort of like know what they're talking about. They can talk about their own experiences, which is sort of like what we on about. Where it has to be a connection. You need to reconnect and also hear the stories that what the locals live around here and the history of the area itself. So from a sort of like a community development, I think that we sort of like getting there. We are obviously fairly new. We've only just been operating for since the 1st of May. But I think it does help where you sort of like hire the people from the area, and it does help a lot. Yeah.
Man, I love this. I love being in the wild, just watching animals roam around in their wild home and really being one with nature. And it's almost like a remembrance, that this is actually where we belong. We belong in this living rhythm of the land. So here we are talking about bush experiences. Rofhiwa Cedric, talk to us about how you, particularly at Ngoma Bush Lodge, how are you balancing luxury with sustainability in your operations?
I think, like I said, it's being expensive does not also mean luxury, and also being cheap does not mean that you can't provide luxury. And I think that we sort of like found the balance in between, where we're still able to give high quality service,
Yeah.
and still be able to be affordable. But I think also the love for me is it's more about trying to provide these experiences for South Africans, and there's not really a lot of people that can actually local people that can go and afford to pay 15,000 rand a night.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still getting you're still getting luxury at an affordable price. This is sort of like where we are, where we're saying you can do this, and it does not have to be expensive. You can go on a safari. You can still do anything else that you sort of like see on TikTok and a lot of people posting about. So I think in terms of we from a business point of view, there is a lot of that we're offering. As you said, I think one of your friends has been here with us and he fell in love. And
Absolutely.
because of sort of like what we offering is.
Right, right. Okay, so do you have any advice then for a young person, a young African person, who's perhaps watching you and interested in the work that you do, around ecotourism, hospitality as a career? What advice do you have?
For me personally, growing up, I think that I had never thought that the thought of managing or owning a commercial lodge was something that has been very far from what I would have ever imagined.
Mm,
But luckily enough, I think just based on curiosity and learning what it is about, it's sort of like that's where the love grew from. As I said, I think I was in IT, and it ended up actually being sort of like a side hustle, and having to leave that space to come and do this full time was actually a very scary thought, and having to leave
mm,
a salary and having to say, okay, let me go and sort of like follow my passion. I think a lot of us just sort of like we always have these ideas, but we're always very scared to take the first step and say, should I do it?
mm.
So far, I think it's been good for me. I'm not saying that everyone else must just go and leave their jobs
Right.
and try and try and follow the passion, because
Got you.
obviously
Mm,
passion will never obviously always pay the bills. But for me, I think that we sort of like just need to get out of our comfort zone. I think a lot of
mm,
times we sort of very comfortable within our space. We sort of like very scared to try new things,
mm,
and I think that Ngoma is something that I'm personally proud of. And I think that also we hear that from the people that have actually come and stayed with us, where there's been a lot of positive feedback, where some people have gone to other places which are much more luxurious, or if that's how the word that we want to use, and they come back like, okay, but this is different. You guys are offering something different that I've never gotten, where I've probably have either paid X amount of money, but you guys are sort of like giving us this sort of like authentic experience. And I think for young people, I think just go for what you think it will work for you. I think sometimes you don't always, like I said, I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but
mm.
you just need to give it a try.
Just give it a try. I mean, just give it a
Mm.
try. Really, if you give it a try, you'll have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Yes.
Cedric, just your final thoughts as we wrap up the conversation. Your broader vision for the future of African travel at this level, because you also mentioned storytelling, which is such a big part of this work. So, what is your vision, especially through lodges like the one that you are running, Ngoma Bush Lodge?
The vision for me, I think, is it's actually very. I've been asked that question a few times. I'm like, I actually do not even know what I didn't plan to be here, honestly.
Mm, mm,
To just a leap of faith, and then you sort of like, I need to do this, and that's what happens. And even if you ask me, like, what's your plan in the next 5 years? I actually do not even have one.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a business, because you also obviously have a strategy and you know sort of like where you want to go.
Got you.
But on a personal level, myself, I don't really have much. It's just I think being here where you sort of like hands-on management and with the people that are here, because it's sort of like become part of your family where you also work for them because you're like, I don't want to, I need you, we all need to succeed at the end of the day. The one thing that sort of like maybe just going back on the stories and all that. So actually, even the name Ngoma itself,
Yes.
for in sort of like Bantu languages or African languages, is a drum in my language, which is Venda, where but drum is actually not, it's just not only just an instrument, but it's more of it's a heartbeat. It calls people together to tell stories, celebrate life, connect with communities and their heritage and just the rhythm of the land, which is sort of like what we try and bring with what we're doing at Ngoma Bush Lodge. But yeah, I think that's in a nutshell. That's sort of like what I can say. I don't really have any immediate or sort of like future plans. Just to work very hard daily as we've always done. I think that's sort of like the plan.
Okay, but listen, that's good enough. You know, that is good enough. That means that your imagination is too big to put into words. This was such a beautiful conversation, Cedric. Thank you very much for the time. I'm going to be making my way back to Hoedspruit, I think around February of 2026, and I'm going to come and stay at Ngoma Bush Lodge, and I'm going to bring my whole pack and we're going to have a good time. Thank you once again. If we do want to perhaps explore your packages perhaps for the upcoming December holidays into January, a lot of people just want to get out of urban areas and come and experience the bush. Where can we go? Where can we find Ngoma Bush Lodge?
You can visit our website. It's www at ngomalodge.com. Also, we are on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram as Ngoma Bush Lodge. And also, you can try and get hold of us on our number, which is 064
Okay, sounds good. Sounds wonderful. It was wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much once again, and all the best for this festive season. I know you're going to be very busy. We'll chat again soon.
Thank you, and thanks for having us.